Salute, Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. We are back. Plenty to talk about tonight. Welcome in to the live stream as we've got the Knicks streets buzzing, and the schedule leaks have come out. The official drop will be later in the week, but we got plenty of news to get through as the Knicks have finalised their assistant coaching staff as well, and we are back on Christmas Day against Cleveland, opening night against Cleveland, MLK Day is a feature, and the preseason schedule is out. Let's talk about our new assistant coaches. Associate head coach Chris Jent, former pro, former New York Knick as well, goes way back with LeBron James as a shooting coach and a former assistant with Cleveland under Mike Brown. But welcome back, everyone. Great to see y'all. A bit absent a little bit. I've been under the weather, so apologies, y'all. But we are here and we are back, and things are going to heat up. I'm really excited for this season ahead. But obviously, the postseason was big. The off season so far has been big. We'll give out our grades. We'll talk about the final roster spot, what's happening with that situation. But let's do a roll call, guys. Johnny in the house. Word, what's good? Buzzer beater. Got new uniforms, coaching staff, and the schedule to talk about. Buzzer says Simmons or Brogdon. We'll talk about that. Paula, great to see you. Building blocks. What's good? Yeah, we do have a lot of assistants to talk about. You know, obviously we have a lot of holdovers and we have a lot of new assistant coaches, which is good. I mean, I've always said you can spare no expense when it comes to, end of the bench and the staff. Nothing like the salary cap. But obviously, first and foremost, let's just recap the guys that are coming in. We got Ricardo Foy, right? So I'll bring up some of the graphics as well, so y'all can see who these guys are. So I think this was the first hire of the offseason. Ricardo Foy, a former assistant under Mike Brown. A lot of praise around his creativity offensively. He's done a lot of work with Team Italia as well. We know Dante DiVincenzo recently became a player of the Italian national team, and Ricardo Foy worked with Mike Brown. He's going to bring some offense to the coaching staff, right? Then we had Charles Allen, who is an assistant. He's known as a development kind of guy, and he's obviously worked with Mike Brown in the past as well. We have Brendan O'Connor, right, who's going to be the defensive coordinator, and he's worked with Brendan O'Connor's worked with Jeff Van Gundy. Obviously he's worked with the New York Knicks in the past as well under Larry Brown, and he is going to be our defensive coordinator, guys, with no Thibodeau here. We've obviously got a lot of offensive new guys coming through, so we're going to have Brendan O'Connor talk about our defense under with Jeff Van Gundy, with the Clips, right? His experience is going to be big time. And then obviously TJ Saint was the newest hire. So he was the G League affiliate coach for the Pels. And reporting Ian Begley, he's viewed around NBA circles as a bright offensive mind and a top G League coach, specializing in offense. So, but last but not least, we have our guy, Chris Jent, ladies and gentlemen, who I want to focus a little bit more on tonight, because I heard a podcast recently, but obviously there's a lot of background behind Chris Jent and why he was the guy that Mike Brown brings in, right? So those two work together with at Cleveland, and Chris Jent has been around the league, most recently the Hornets as an assistant, former New York Knick pro, was a player on the Houston Rockets championship team that defeated the New York Knicks. He is super close to LeBron James as his private shooting coach, going way back to Cleveland. So there's a lot of connections, man, with the OG Chris Jent. But the best of them all might be that Chris Jent actually played professionally in my city, Melbourne, Australia. He had a cup of coffee in the NBL for 1 year after Rick Brunson came down as well. Known as a flashy offensive player back in his playing days, Chris Jent's a guy who has carried on that as an assistant, focusing on offense. So he's going to be our associate head coach, but he's an offensive mind. I think this guy was kind of like, yeah, if you kind of want to get a feel of what kind of player he was kind of athletic, a tall shooting guard, small forward, and he was kind of maybe like a Mario Hezonja before Super Mario came into the league. But man, he could shoot, he could light it up, and as we have here, I mean, he is super close to LeBron James, man. I'm going to talk about a story that he talked about in the podcast that I heard. It was an Australian podcast. It was done 6 years ago, basically when he was an assistant with Atlanta, and he was talking about how LeBron James was his shot just wasn't developing the way he wanted it to, and basically he hired Chris Jent privately. And Jent was an assistant on the Cavs, but he said, "Hey, I need you to travel. I need you to come with me private and be my shooting coach." And he traveled around the world with LeBron James, right? Known as one of his favorite coaches around the NBA, right? Here he is. He worked together with LeBron with the Lakers as well, and apparently he had a closer relationship to LeBron than Darvin Ham. So let that sink in, right? So yeah, on the note that Building Block said, we got quite a few assistants. We've obviously got the return of Rick Brunson. We've got Darren Erman. We've got Jordan Brink as well. We've got Mo Cheeks. We've got Mark Bryant as well as these 5 new guys. So yeah, it is going to be a situation where I'm expecting a lot of wholesale changes in the way we play. Right, offensively, guys, it's going to be pace and space. It's going to be a lot of player movement, ball movement as well, and which is music to my ears as well. So let us know your thoughts on that situation. They do have a history as well, going back to Ohio State. Obviously, Chris Jent was an alum of Ohio State too, and those two working together on the Cleveland Cavaliers right earlier. We had a couple of announcements from NBA on NBC. I really like this intro, man. Hyped to see the coverage, the new look coverage. You've obviously got so many former legends on the broadcast now. Carmelo Anthony, you've got Dirk, you've got Taylor Rooks, you've got a lot of experienced heads, and I'm looking forward to the new look coverage this year. But yeah, we talked about the assistant coaches, but let's talk about the schedule leaks and the schedule drops. So the NBA has officially released some key matchups, key dates, and we'll have the rest of the full schedule out, I think, on Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll be live to break that down as well in full effect on Thursday. But we have the full schedule for preseason out now. We have opening week and we have Christmas Day. Let us know your thoughts, guys. Cardiac, great to see you. What's good? So let's start with preseason, right? We have the two first matchups against Philly, Abu Dhabi. It's going to be the first time New York Knicks have played away outside of the US for a long minute. I think going back since we were in London, sorry. We played Detroit back in London. So, yeah, that was the last time. I think that was going back since 2012, if my memory serves me correct. But yeah, Abu Dhabi, October 2nd, October 4, and then Mini, October 9. I like that matchup because we want some good competition. You know, we want it to be, a real warm up for the real deal, right? Two matches against Philly, match up against Mini. And we have the Wiz on October 13, and we have the Hornets on October 17. Right, all of them prime time, except the Abu Dhabi games, fam. Some of y'all are gonna have to wake up at 11 a.m. if you ain't already up. That's kind of my time frame with the local games. So yeah, 5 games for preseason. I think that's good. Not too many, not too light either. Let us know your thoughts on that. Obviously, training camp will commence at the start of mid-September, roughly, and then we'll be straight into it with media day, late September, and then obviously the start of preseason, right? But the real games begin, man, October 22nd, right? Opening week, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second night of the NBA season. The NBA season will officially kick off October 21. So the Knicks will make their season debut on the second night of the new season against Cleveland, right? Christmas Day, also starting the slate against Cleveland. So NBA, New York Knicks know Cleveland, and New York will be back and forth, right, together. The two favorites out east, no surprise to me, right? It's going to be Donovan Mitchell trying to stand in the way of the Knicks going all the way out east, and it's going to be the Knicks standing in the way of Cleveland, man. Who can get over the hump? That's that's a big storyline, and that's why I think that the NBA has nailed this scenario, because I mean, who else is it going to be, right? It doesn't have the same juice if it's against Boston. It doesn't have the same juice if it's against Indiana with no Tyrese and no Jason Tatum, right? Are y'all sweating Cleveland? I mean, I certainly respect Cleveland for what they've been able to achieve, for the last 2 seasons. But I mean, let's be real; they are vulnerable. It ain't like, they have taken their opportunities. Most recently, it ain't like they haven't faltered and stumbled and fumbled. Recently, their style is very up and down, but they are small in the backcourt. I think the Knicks should and will start with the big lineups, and we'll talk about that tonight, guys, as we look at our roster and finalizing the 14th, 13th spots. Done a little update. And I do think that Mohamed Diawara is going to get that regular rookie second round exception spot. And I do think the 14th spot is still up for grabs. Is it going to be Landry? Is it going to be Brogdon? Is it going to be Ben Simmons? What's the holdup? Let us know your thoughts. We'll talk about that. I'll give you my thoughts in terms of what's the holdup. But for the rest of the two-ways, I think it'll be McCullough. I think it'll be Dink Pate. And I think it'll be either James Nagy or Beauchamp, right? Now, we had an update from Europe. Officially, James Nagy has officially separated with Barcelona, his club in Europe. So he's an official free agent now. And I don't think that happens unless, something is in the works. He's clearly going to come for training camp. And he's clearly going to, compete for a G League spot or a two-way. But he'll definitely come for training camp. You'll get that Exhibit 10, which gives you around about 50 grand. Any Nick that just makes training camp will make about 50 grand, fam. And then they will be able to either, sign a deal and stay on the main roster, or they'll go to Westchester for the rest of the season. But I think as the season goes, the Knicks can add a 15th guy once the salaries go down. Fam. We also have our newest Nick, Yabusele, balling out with the Euro basket right now. He was named Capitan of his country. So salute to Yabusele. We have a couple of leaders now in our locker room, guys. Right, we have the Brunson burner returning as the cap, right? But we have Yabusele, who's captain his country right now. Fam, let us know your thoughts on Yabusele. Johnny says, CT, you should have Huck and Jent on to discuss the NBA transition. I like that, Johnny. I like that idea. We'll definitely try to tee that up. I can't promise, but we'll definitely try to tee that up. But yeah, a lot of connections, fam. It's a super close basketball circle between Leon, Wes, NBL, overseas, the scouts, and we are worldwide, fam. We are global, man. We are the biggest franchise in the world, fam. Forget about the Celtics. Forget about the Lakers, fam. Nobody makes moves like the New York Knicks around the world. Buzzer says, I heard it could be Thomas Bryant rumored to come to New York. Does that make sense? I haven't heard as much, fam. I haven't heard that rumor. There's a lot of buzz around the off season. Now, maybe sort of closely linked. The Knicks are looking for potential insurance at the big man spot. Now, we had confirmation from Daniel Tice that he was offered the spot last season ahead of PJ Tucker. Yeah. Daniel Tice was offered a spot to come on the Knicks. This was right before Mitch was due to return. And he politely declined because he knew that he was basically insurance. So are we still looking for big man insurance, fam? Maybe they're not completely sold on James Nagy or Huck. That could be a possibility. Welcome into the chat, JM. What's good? Jason Benjamin. Great to see ya with the super chat. Jason says, I think the hold-up with Simmons may be who offers him more playing time, possibly a starting gig at the point, move Brunson to the 2, Mikal, OG, and Cat. Jason, I think it's definitely attached to playing time. You're 100% right. It's definitely attached to the role. Maybe more specifically, how we're going to utilize his skill set. The thing with Simmons is he likes to do a lot of due diligence, man. He's definitely weighing up his options right now. And I do think if the season starts tomorrow, we have a 9-man rotation that's very, very solid. Right. A great 9-man rotation. So if you're Simmons, you're going to be thinking like, okay, it's got to come from the coach. And I do think that Mike Brown is the guy who's maybe driving the Simmons, pursuit. And I do think that Mike Brown loves size. Pause. Mike Brown loves athleticism. He's used to playing faster, up and down. He's used to having guys like a Fox, guys like Malik Monk, very athletic guys. And I think he's kind of looked at our roster from last season. It's like, okay, Brunson's not athletic as much. We need some athletes in that backcourt. Clarkson's a good addition, but he's 33 now, so he ain't the athlete he used to be. Deuce is a good athlete, but he's undersized. So where I'm sitting, guys, is I'd be okay, adding Simmons. I'm not going to be upset with it, but I do think that a shooter would be good, ball handler, a shooter. either way they want to go, whether it's be Brogdon or Shamit or Simmons. Um, but in terms of what Jason said, I can't really see Simmons starting anymore. I just can't see. I can't see his days of starting in the league. I think are done. I think it just comes from a durability perspective as well. Um, but definitely appreciate your thoughts on that situation. Look, I think athleticism, ball handling, and defense would be the reasons why you would look at Simmons. Um, the thing is, Landry offers defense as well. He could defend at a high level, um, and I do think there's a lot of talk about our offense, but there's also a lot of possibilities that we can improve on the defensive side as well. I saw a lot of defensive frailties last season, right? And who better to bring in than a guy who's already been with the Knicks in the past? Brendan O'Connor, a guy who helped the Clippers have a really, elite defense, third in the league last season, right? With Jeff. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, on Buzz's question about thoughts about Thomas Bryant, right? I like Thomas Bryant. I think he could get gritty. He likes to rebound. Not going to give you too much offense, and he's definitely going to be situational, but he could give you good insurance. Maybe Trey Lyles is a guy they're still looking at as well. There's quite a few possibilities out there. But yeah, I do think our offense is going to be top 3. I'm very confident saying our offense is going to be top 3 in the league. But our defense, can we get that top 10? Is that hopeful? Is that too high? Can we get our defense to be top 8? I know we've got Cat and we got Brunson. That would be a huge victory if we could get our defense that high, fam. Buzzer also says the 90s unis are coming back. Yes, let's bring that up. Right, my favorite, EJ's favorite, probably your favorites as well. Everybody's favorites, it seems, fam. Side by side, 2 captains, 2 legends, in the classic 90s getup, fam. What do y'all think, fam? I think this is going to sell out. This is going to sell hot. Everyone's going to be ready to cop. Okay, Building Block says Bryant already signed elsewhere. Yeah, I think possibly he was looking at Europe. I think there was a spot he might have been looking at in Europe. Mets Knicks, salute. Says CT, we're looking at a 57-win team right now. I want the season to start, but I'm obviously going to give my prediction, but I just want to see what the rest of the East looks like. But yeah, I really feel like 55 plus, should be the minimum, fam. That should be the minimum, 55. Here's another good look. And we don't have the official, graphic yet. This is all speculation so far, but it does look like from credible sources it is coming. Fam, it is coming to a store near you. So yeah, just on that conversation about the roster, right, and the minutes, the allocations. So I think there's a couple of conclusions we can come to already, fam. There's been a lot of smoke, and I think there's been quite clear thoughts shared about 2 things. I do think Josh Hart. It's safe to say that I don't think Josh Hart will start permanently. Now he might start, certain games, no doubt. There might be some injuries, who knows? But just, opening night, I don't think Josh Hart is going to start if everybody's healthy. The other thing is, obviously, that means who's going to be the starter? Is it going to be Mitch? Does Deuce McBride just have an amazing, summer and preseason, and show that, hey, Mike Brown, I'm a guy who could play fast. I'm a guy who can defend. I'm a guy who could fit in to that starting lineup. Possible, but I think more likely, I do think it's going to be Mitchie. I do think it's going to be Mitchie. Certainly, if Simmons comes on the roster, that's a conversation that needs to be had. Because he could allow Brunson to play off the ball. I just don't know if he's ready to play starters minutes, but he might play rotation minutes with the starters. If you get me, fam. There's also some other guys that I want to see get an opportunity, especially for preseason guys. As we talk about preseason, that should be used for real experimentation. You got a new coach, right? You got Pacome Dardier, Kevin McCullough, Tyler Kolek. You got some guys that can handle the ball, right? I'm curious to see how they fit in to Mike Brown's plans, right? There's been a lot of days go by since Summer League, and we haven't had any confirmation on the 2As yet, or the 13th or the 14th spot. And I could kind of clear up a couple of things about the 2As. We have, I think, Kevin McCullough ineligible to take the rookie exception, the 13th spot or 14th spot. So I do think Kevin McCullough, because he's second year in the league, I think the money is going to be a little too high. So I do think it's going to be Diawara that gets that 14th spot. And I do think Kevin McCullough will probably have to stay on the 2A, barring any trades or any other movements. Fam. Jason also says, appreciate you for the contribution. Jason says Simmons would unlock the offense with pace and the passing game. I definitely want to see how that looks. I do think, we need some more passes, Jason, to juice up the offense a bit more. And I want to see a lot more two-man game between Brunson and Mikal. I do think that's key with Mikal and JB, because those two need to share the ball a lot more together. I'm looking for Mikal to take over the offense at times too, and let Brunson rest. Let Brunson be a little decoy or play off the ball some more. Coach also says on Simmons, I watched an hour of the Simmons film the other night. That dude is fully worth the money we would pay and fills every missing thing we are looking for. I think Coach Mike Brown really is a fan of getting Simmons in. I do think that's why we continue to hear the links. And I do think that, shooting aside, some of the mental issues that Simmons has faced recently, I do think as a vet's minimum, I think that'd be totally fine. I think it'll be totally fine because he could defend as well. And maybe it's a case of saying, hey, Shamit, come February or come Jan, we could get you back on as the 15th guy. Because he's happy taking the minimum on the cheap. So it could be a case of, hey, Landry, we want to get Ben Simmons in here, but maybe you can wait it out a little bit. Now, we're going to do our full preview prediction, overs, unders, and all of that. But what do y'all think of what's going on around the league? We've got Trae Young not getting an extension yet. You've got the holdup with Quentin Grimes, Kuminga, Josh Giddey. It's a sad state right now for free agency with these guys hoping to get huge money. I mean, last I heard yesterday, Cam Thomas is hoping to get 40 mil, which I think is just BS, you know. I mean, I understand these players, they buy in and they believe in their talents, but really, 40 million? I mean, let's keep it a buck. There's no way Cam Thomas should be paid the same as OG, or, there's no way he should even be paid more than Mikal Bridges, to be honest. He's a one-sided player. Coach agrees with the Josh Hart point. Hart's minutes need to diminish for the betterment of the team. Yeah, I also feel like there's a lot of tread on those tires, I did pay close attention to Josh Hart down the stretch of last season. Yeah, I think he's the eldest player in the starting lineup. 30. He's going to be turning 31, fam. So, I'm not saying he's old, but, Father Time does catch up to guys that play heavy minutes. And I do think, yeah, his minutes need to go down. The last 2 seasons with the Knicks, he's played more minutes than he's ever played in his career. And it was just too high. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, we all know that story that came out the other day as well from the Athletic, James Edwards, talking about his understanding is that Leon Rose has been monitoring the Giannis situation. I mean, we've heard this a million times in the past. Nothing's really changed on this front. However, guys, I think it's not happening this season. It's not happening. I can't see it happening this season, right? If it is, trade deadline. I don't think it's a preseason kind of move. Let us know your thoughts, right? I think Giannis is going to give it a go. He's going to give it a shake to start the season. The Bucks have made a lot of moves, bringing in Miles Turner, bringing in, the other guys, Cole Anthony. Great prediction on record from Buzzer Beater. Says, bold prediction, Brunson is a top 3 in MVP votes this year and would win it if the team wins the regular season. Salute. I like that. Hey, 58 wins, top 1, top 2 seed. He could absolutely be in the top 2 MVP conversation, fam. Tatum's out. Eventually we're going to see some kind of attrition catch up to the Joker, fam. I think the Joker's definitely going to show some attrition as well. Shea might, have a little bit of a hangover as well. So I like that prediction. Dirty, salute, says, I like Ben as the 13th contract, can play 3 or 4 positions. Seems like, I think you've changed your stance a little bit. I think you were against Ben Simmons earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that to me, the most important thing is the coach buy-in. If the coach really wants this player, then I'm okay with it. The last thing we want is a player that the coach doesn't want. Like, let's say it's a front office appointment and the coach doesn't really want that guy. We've seen that too many times with Evan Fournier, with Kemba, with, obviously, how could we forget Cam Reddish? Fournier, Kemba Walker, Cam Reddish. We've seen a lot of guys in the past, but I think they've learned from that. And I do think that collaboration now is in full effect. I do think it's down to, a meeting of the minds and the coach, the front office seeing eye to eye on these guys. Yeah, coach, I think Trae Young will get moved. I can't see him finishing out his career out there, fam. He's just too streaky. Yeah, Delmar, salute. Grimes is restricted right now. So, yeah, they are holding out for, hopefully, they're trying to lowball him I think same as Giddy. Like, I don't know what Chicago's trying to do, man. They traded a veteran that was highly sought after to get Josh Giddy. He's a young player. Now they don't want to pay him. It's like, what do they want to do? Do they want to blow it up? Do they want to stay in between? Chicago's kind of crazy, as always. So yeah, I shared my thoughts on the Mikal Bridges extension, but just having more time to stew on it, and I think that Bridges, obviously there was a consistency element that didn't help. We want to see him more consistent with the shooting, but I do think he wasn't put in best positions to succeed. But I also feel like coming back for continuity is key. Too many times early in the 90s, after the 90s, too many times we had guys come and go. It was a revolving door. And so I do think that it's a case of now having that core 6 guys under contract, and trying to skirt that second apron is key. And eventually I think we're going to break through, because you see these teams kind of buckle under the financial pressure. You've got Boston now. Cleveland is now into the second apron, guys. So they might have to move Jarrett Allen. They might have to move Darius Garland. They might have to move one of those two. So they might crumble under the financial pressure. Indiana, we know, they can only sustain paying heavy financial, wages too much. Also, Boston, wholesale changes. We don't know how they're going to look with no Coronet, no Kristaps, and no Al Horford. So it could just be slow and steady wins the race for the New York Knicks, and we just stay the course. And eventually, one out of these next 3 years, we break through. Dirty says, "Nah, I was always for Ben as long as he's not guaranteed a big role." Yeah, I feel like he's, an exceptional passer and reader of the floor. And anytime you can get Brunson off the ball, I think is really good. Mikal, little shaky, handling the ball, and Josh Hart off the bench. We just don't know how that's going to go. Buzzer says, bold prediction, Josh Hart becomes the 6th man of the year. Another good prediction, Buzzer. I don't know if it's going to be a bold prediction. I think that's a good prediction. I think that's really a good shout, because, he might not be that microwave scorer that a traditional 6-man is, but if he's like 12 points, 8-9 rebounds, like flirting with a triple-double, and I do think his numbers are going to go up, because he's going to be playing more up-tempo. He's going to be up and down, and getting opportunities to pass, rebound, and go, grab and go. So that's a good shout. Also, give us a prediction on how much Brunson is going to average, right? You see here, by the seasons, right? Look at that go up, crazy, from year 4 to year 5. And then year 7, it's still going up. Oh, sorry, year 6, year 7 was a slight dip. But we brought in Karl Anthony Towns. Year 8, I think it's going to be around 26 still, 26, 27. I don't think it's really going to drop off. Possibly 25, but that could be good. That could be good if it goes down slightly. Karl Anthony Towns steps it up. Also, we know his numbers, fam, in the postseason. 4 guys, elite company, with 10 plus games in the postseason, with 30 points, and 5+ assists. You got Shea, Brunson, LeBron, and MJ, fam. What do those 3 other guys have that Brunson doesn't have right now? What do those 3 other guys have that Brunson is about to go for and get? Fam, that's that chip. Right, I think he's coming for this season for that chip. Keith, greetings from ATL. Great to see you. Buzzer says, CT, how much of a leash will Mike Brown have? If he goes 5-15, will the front office pull the plug? Man, he'll have plenty of leash, Buzzer. He'll have plenty of leash. He'll be able to start the season slow if that's what happens. I don't see that happening. But yeah, I do think if we are like in a real bad position by the trade deadline, they might think about pulling the plug, because this year is the only reason they would do that is because this year is our chance. This year is our chance to go all the way. Delmar says Brunson will finish with 24, 5, and 8. I like the 8 assists. Delmar, I'd sign up for that right now. 8 assists, give me less than 2 turnovers. He's got to cut back on those turnovers, but hopefully with less fatigue and less ball handling, those turnovers will go down, naturally. Fam. Johnny goes with 25 and 8. Yep, salute. I like that. Yep, because of the ball, more ball movement. Dirty Dancer says Brunson can still unlock so much with higher 3-point volume. That is 100% correct as well, fam. With the above the break threes, I see a world where that could get to like, Damian Lillard levels, in his prime. In terms of just being that threat. Glenn, as Keith says, yeah, the chip. Brunson's the only guy out of those 4 guys without that chip. Glenn, salute. Salute brother CT. If they get Ben Simmons, I hope Coach Brown knows what he's doing. I really do. We need all hands on deck. Also, my wife gives me a hard time because I'm always watching your live videos. Hey, Glenn, Mrs. Jones, please give Glenn a pass. He's definitely in a good spot, and he's with some quality people having quality conversation about our beloved New York Knicks. Right, it's all healthiness right here. Now, I don't want to question this person's credentials, but obviously we take this with a pinch of salt. But there was a report come out that the Blazers are pursuing Marjon Beauchamp, and right now he's a free agent. So yeah, there's a big chance that Marjon does not come back, and I'm factoring that into my calculations as well when we look at who I think is going to get these final spots. Let us know if you agree or disagree with these 2 ways. I think Beauchamp definitely made a good case, late in Summer League. But I just think it comes down to prioritization, right? What I mean by that is you got to prioritize these younger guys, Pacome Dardier, first and foremost, Diawara, Dink Pate, McCullough, maybe to a lesser extent, because he's 25 right now. But I do think that Beauchamp should have interest around the league. He did have a pretty solid end to Summer League. Yuri Ark, salute. Yo, I hope we get Landry Shamet back. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Landry. He definitely showed us a lot of this heart that we want to see from a fringe Knicks player. He left it all out there. Uh, I think it's a good match, but I think there are some guys out there that could offer us something different, and I do think they're definitely weighing up all the options right now. Yeah, the assistant coaches are going to be key. Del Maro, no doubt. Um, we've got that Riccardo Foy. He's coaching in Italy or coached the national team with Italy. Offensive kind of ball movement, pace and space. We do have Yabusele, who's used to that similar European style, where less ball dominance. Uh, I think we just need a good preseason and a good training camp, fam, and these guys can buy in. Buzzer says, CT, what's your biggest worry other than an injury with New York? Another great question, Buzzer. Definitely, I feel like my biggest worry is getting to the just get to the postseason healthy first and foremost. But as you say, outside of the injury front, uh, I do think that it's going to be the matchups. I'm only worried about the Eastern Conference Finals. That's the only thing that would keep me up at night, fam. Not the first round, not the second round, and it's most likely going to be Cleveland, right? I'm not worried about Orlando, I'm not worried about ATL, Boston, or you know, uh, Indiana right now, right? They just don't have, I think, what it takes when they stacked up against us. So yeah, I would say Eastern Conference Finals or bust. Um, Now, keeping in mind that we've got some changes to the coaching staff, changes to the players. If we don't get to the NBA Finals, I think a lot of y'all would say it's a failure. I think depends on how it goes, but Eastern Conference Finals at a minimum, you know, you have to get back to where we were last season. Man, it looks like the Yankees and the Mets. it's been it's been a roller coaster to say the least. Dirty says TJ Saint is the most interesting assistant to me long term. Most others just seem like a journeyman. Yeah, TJ Saint, the upside, coming up quickly from the G League. Uh, I think, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities in terms of offensively with our squad right now. And I think if we're just the top 12, top 10 defense, I think that's going to be enough. If our offense is top 3, right? You can be okay in one area, but as long as you're elite, I think in the other area. And, if we want to play faster, we better play more guys. We better get that rotation to 10, maybe even 11. I wouldn't be mad. Fair. I think a lot of these guys would be really into that, especially the young fellas that are hoping to, you know, get their NBA careers off to a good start. How many years does Tyler Kolek want to be situational? How many years does, Pacome Dardier want to waste away? Right? There's ways we can get our rotation up to 10, 11, 12, 11, especially back-to-backs, fam. I'm good with Brunson playing 30 minutes on a back-to-back. You got Clarkson now. You've got Deuce. Heck, you've got Hart that can play off the bench. Also, maybe a guy takes a major leap, like a Deuce McBride, or, a guy we're not accounting for, like a Dig Pate. I'm not trying to heap expectations on a Dig Pate, but sometimes you just never know, man. Sometimes these players they're ready. You can never, account for when they're going to say they're ready. You just know that they're ready. Buzzer goes with 22 points for Brunson. More guys to score, but the assists will be top 3 in the league. Sounds good to me. If he shoots the 3 with efficiency, that's great. Yeah, Chris Jent. I really like the Chris Jent pickup. Sounds like a really astute offensive mind, fam. He's quite young as well. He's only, 50? Former pro. Knows the situation as well. So yeah, let us know the answer to Buzz's question as well. Your thoughts on what's the thing that you worry about the most with this squad? I really had to think hard because not to sound overconfident, but I'm really not worried about too many things. Once you get to that Eastern Conference Finals and you think about a Cleveland, then I think I start to worry. Because I do respect Cleveland. From a standpoint of they're well coached. They can play fast as well. I do think they probably have more questions than we do, though. We have that our players actually have that tough mindset that have shown that, hey, we can overachieve. We can get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You look at Cleveland, hey, they finished with 60 wins and folded like a cheap 10 in the playoffs. Right? There's a lot of question marks over that. And if they do the same thing all over again, there'll have to be wholesale changes, if not already. That could include Kenny Atkinson. That could include Darius Garland or, Evan Mobley, Jarrett. That could include any of those guys. Whereas I think the New York Knicks have shown they've got heart. They've shown that they can battle in the postseason, and they've shown that they can stay with it. Through Coach Thibodeau and a lot of the ups and downs, they actually, overachieved in the playoffs. Cleveland underachieved in the playoffs. So, hey, if it starts tomorrow, I'm taking the Knicks. I'm still taking the Knicks over Cleveland right now. How's the West gonna look? I can't look past Houston, fam. I think Houston's really gonna come in hungry. Right? You got OKC. They'll still be there. I don't expect a huge drop off, but I do think that OKC will have a tough competition against the Rockets, fam. I think the Rockets will be hard to beat, even if it's Minnesota. I think Rockets, Dallas. Dallas will be alongside kind of Minnesota, I feel. And I do think the Denver Nuggets have definitely strengthened too. But I would put them in probably the same category as Minnesota and Dallas. And I would put the Rockets on another tier alongside OKC. How do y'all feel about that? So, concerns, Dirty says Mitch, health is the number one concern. Hopefully Casey Smith has that on lock. Yeah, that's a good shout because if Mitch is going to start and if Mitch is going to play more minutes, then he has to pass that durability test. Yuri agrees. Says I'm more worried about the healthy aspects of the team. What the thing is, guys, we have the depth now. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the best I've felt about a New York Knicks depth squad probably since the 2013 Carmelo Anthony Knicks with J.R. Smith, with Camby, with Shumpert, Prigioni, Rasheed Wallace, Kurt Thomas, Jason Kidd. This is the deepest squad we've had since that year, I think. So if ever you are going to be able to, cope with an injury, I think this is the year because, somebody is going to step up, I think, if we do suffer an injury, fam. And you only have to look at your bench. Let's say 2 starters, for whatever reason, can't play. Do I have 2 starting quality options on my bench? The answer to that is yes, 100%. Josh Hart was a starter, so we already know he's capable if required. Could Yabusele start? Absolutely. I feel confident he could start. He could play 30 minutes. Plays a big role with Team France as the captain. Could Deuce McBride start? Absolutely. We've seen that before as well. So that's 3 options right there. 1 guard wing, another wing, and another big man. Could Clarkson start? Possibly as well. What could be the thing that puts us over the top is 2 or 3 of these young guys, show that they're capable and ready for real, real minutes. And then I think we're really cooking with fire, fam. Hopefully it's Dardier and Kolek or Diawara. Just somebody who could handle the ball, facilitate a bit, create a shot. That's what I want to see from Pacome Dardier. Just real progress, because we've seen the 3-point shooting. We've heard the buzz, courtesy of Fred Katz, the latest podcast. He talked about, well, not the latest podcast, but he talked about this off season, through the back channels, that the Pacome Dardier shooting numbers behind the scenes are off the charts. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, similar questions about Darius Garland, Spider Mitchell's health. There's a lot of mileage on their bodies, fam, to help carry them. And I do think they're going to have to get more offense out of the other guys. That's why some of the guys they picked up, I think, were pretty key. They lost Karis LeVert, but they brought in, obviously at the end of the year, they brought in a Hunter as well. So that was key. Also, Mitch didn't come back until March. Landry missed 4 months. So I think you factor that in. You factor in Yabusele and Clarkson now, with possibly Huck Porty giving you the real backup Jericho Sims minutes or Precious type minutes. We've basically upgraded in basically every possible spot that needed to be upgraded, all the way down from the starters to the situationals. I'm not too sure about TJ Saint, fam. I'm going to do a lot more research in terms of his come up. But with the Pelicans, he was basically with the Pelicans G League squad. But I do know a lot more about Chris Jent, the associate head coach. And as we talked about at the top of the show, fam, he was behind the LeBron James coaching, shooting renaissance, right? Which is good news when we talk about Mikal Bridges, needing to rediscover his shot. If Mikal Bridges can rediscover that 3-point shot above the break from the elbow, even more consistency from the corners, we're in a great spot, fam. Chris Jent, back in the Cleveland days, traveled around the world with LeBron as his private, not team, but private shooting coach. So those two are ultra close. And look, I ain't trying to give out a hot take. I ain't trying to get aggregated, but if these two is as close as I hear they are with Chris, Jent, LeBron, if you tell me that LeBron is not on the Lakers next season, you you would have to put the Knicks like somewhere in the top two options, fam. Right. Based on what we know today, things can change, right? In 12 months. But if LeBron is not on the Lakers next season, and you're predicting what team he's going to be on, I think you would have to put the Knicks top two. Now, would the Knicks entertain that? What would the salary look like? He's a free agent. All of those things, right? Anybody's guess. But if these two are that close, and we have Mike Brown, who we already know has coached LeBron, and we have LeBron's private shooting coach as our associate head coach to add to that, there's a lot of smoke with that, fam. Yeah, these Abu Dhabi games definitely going to be our prime time. I'm not really looking to see how those games play out, though. I'm just looking to see them experiment, with the first two games. I want to see a lot of Yabusele. I want to see a lot of the young guys get a shot as well. I think the veterans will be easing their way in. They usually are a little bit leggy at the start of, preseason, due to the training camp, the tour days. I mean, we might even be doing 3-a-days with Mike Brown. We know he loves to practice, right? Training camp is going to be intense, ladies and gentlemen, with Mike Brown. Buzzer, our offensive coordinator is going to be Chris Jent, the associate. Our associate head coach is also going to be the offensive coordinator. And the defensive coordinator is going to be Brendan O'Connor, the defensive guy from Cleveland. Paula says, "Stop the LeBum talk." I promise. I'll stop. I promise. But it's good to have Chris Jent in the building. Yuri says, "When does training camp start?" At the top of October, fam. But I think unofficially by mid-September, they're already basically doing team workouts, private workouts. Embiid is questionable for Abu Dhabi. What else is new? Buzzer, what else is new? That's why I can't take Philly seriously. I just can't. They need to move on ASAP. They need to invest in the youth with Jared McCain, Maxey, Quentin Grimes. They need to move on from PG. They need to see what they can get for Joel Embiid, fam. That boat might have sailed. They might not even get that haul. If they traded Joel Embiid last year, before the season began, they might have been able to get that haul for Embiid from Phoenix. Phoenix would have given them a haul to pair up Embiid with Booker. Or who knows, the Rockets might have even given up some major pieces. Abu Dabadu, yeah, I'm looking for the young guys, especially Dardier. Now, one thing I respect about Mike Brown is he's really into development. He was courtside every summer league game. He was into it. He was writing notes. He was watching the Dink Pate show. He was watching Dardier, McCullough, Beauchamp, Kolek. He was watching all of these guys. So yeah, preseason is what it is. As we bring it up, I like the fact that we've got Minnesota, but I don't really think much about Philly. I don't think about anything about. Well, the Wizards will be a solid test because I think they're Their young core are really feisty. They've got good. They've got size. They've got length, and I do think Washington will. I think Washington will make a serious jump. Now, maybe not play in, but probably from like bottom to like maybe 12th, maybe 13th, 12th, 11th, possibly. What do y'all think? I like their young core. I like what they're doing. Johnny says JB, McHale, OG, Cat, Mitch. That leaves an amazing bench. Yeah, no doubt. Uh, I think Hart's going to be back to his best. I think Josh Hart playing like 25 minutes a night. I mean, he's going to be an absolute menace. I think that 6-man is a good shout. Like what Buzzer said earlier, when it comes to Josh Hart. But yeah, those are my thoughts, guys, on the season schedule. Cleveland Knicks, that's my only worry right now. But I still give the edge to the New York Knicks right now. Look, Orlando, I think, are going to be roundabout top 3, top 4. I think Atlanta will probably be 4 or 5. Boston and Indiana, we expect a drop. We expect a drop off for those guys, but probably they're going to be around the 5 to 7 mark, 5 to 8. They've still got good talent. Now, a big wild card is, does Jason Tatum get back? Now, we already know Tyrese Halliburton has been officially ruled out for the entire season, but Jason Tatum has not. Jason Tatum has not been officially ruled out. If he gets back somewhat 80% of his former self, and Boston is in that kind of 4 or 5 range, that could make for a very entertaining finish, to the season. That could definitely be fun, fam. I do think that he should probably not come back, though. I would not risk it, like Yuri says. 100% agree. The season, just let it play out, Think of it as kind of an off year for Boston, but they're competitive. You got Joe Mazzulla. He's a madman. You got Jason Tatum, I think, that wants to get back to prove that point. Michael Drake, salute. Great to see ya. No apologies here. Yeah, we are going to ramp up the content. Obviously, we are getting closer to September when camp will kick off. We'll be later live this week once the full schedule drops. But I am expecting a lot of marquee matchups. Obviously, for some teams we play 4 times, some teams we only play 3, usually. And I do think they're definitely going to give us 4 games against Atlanta. They'll give us 4 games against Cleveland, 4 games against Orlando. What do y'all think about Miami? What's Miami going to look like this season, fam? I think that Norm Powell was a good pickup. I think they kind of saved their off-season a little bit with Norm Powell. But we know Pat Riley, something's got to give, Do they trade? Do they finally move on from, Bam? Do they make a trade with Tyler Hero? I do think they're probably waiting it out for Giannis, like the rest of us. I think they're trying to wait it out. Speedy recovery for your wife, Michael. I'm also under the weather as well. Apologies for my nasal troubles, but it's definitely been a case of trying to get over this sinus issue I've got. But always great to be with you, chopping it up. Dirty says heat culture is dead head. Heat culture's done. But I think the Norm Powell was a good pickup. But he is kind of getting over the hill a little bit. So that's another case of they didn't strike while the iron was hot. Jimmy Butler was aging. I think they moved on from Jimmy kind of a year or two late. They should probably do the same thing with Bam. Yeah, I don't know if they've got Michael. I don't know if they've got the assets for a Giannis. I do think Orlando would be sneaky appealing for Giannis. They've got all the assets in the world. Does Orlando? They've got no state taxes as well. They've got Disneyland, obviously Disney World for Giannis's kids and his growing family. But one thing that's going to remain the same is the Brooklyn Nets will continue to suck. The Brooklyn Nets have had, I think, a very average to below average offseason so far. They can't even come to an agreement with their main free agent. Let that sink in, right? They've got a heap of young guys that just, how's that all going to mesh right there? Meanwhile, they've got all of our draft picks, right? They've got all of our draft picks, but as we know, most of them are protected until 2031. I think the Knicks will still be ultra competitive, even by then, right? Let's be real. Jalen Brunson's not going to fall off as a 34-year-old, 33, 34-year-old. He'll still be at a very, very high level. Might not be the kind of the dominant scorer that he is right now, but he'll be a lot more facilitating as well. Cam Thomas wants 40, Michael. That's the latest report. He wants 40 milli. Paula says Heroes is not it as a franchise player. Yeah, and the issue is Bam is just kind of, he's stuck in the middle. He's a two-way player, but he's not good enough offensively. He's good defensively. I'll give him that. Agree 100%, Michael. It's our time. This is our time for that championship. It's going to be a fun season. I think it's going to be less stressful than last season because we already know it's going to be all about the postseason. And I do anticipate there'll be some turbulence throughout the regular season. There always is. But I think we're well equipped. We're very well equipped to handle that with a deeper rotation, tapping into our offense, the weakened East. I think it's going to be kind of more smooth sails throughout the regular season. But once we get to that first round, the business end starts. It's going to be all about, playing our best ball. For all of the flaws and shortcomings that Thibodeau had, he was able to get us going through the postseason and get us to that Eastern Conference Finals. We did start to lock in. So Mike Brown's playoff resume as a head coach is obviously in question. So when the business end starts, hopefully we're playing our best. Hopefully the new pieces are well integrated. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows their role. But I do think we are going to be a lot sharper in terms of late game execution. Out of bounds plays, timeouts, inbound plays after a basket made. All of those attentions to detail, I think, is going to be a big upgrade this year. And look, understandingly that Thibodeau didn't practice a lot because he knew he wanted to play his guys, heavy minutes. Now, the trade-off is going to be when we're going to be practicing a lot more and playing less minutes. That's the trade-off. So we're swapping the heavier minutes for less minutes in order to practice more, which is going to bear fruits of late game execution. Like I said, guys, communicating better, knowing their roles, identifying our weaknesses better, not being as susceptible to fast break buckets and improving our transition play, I think is going to be key. Uh, I think the West got stronger every year. I mean, it's hard to believe that the West continues to get stronger with the Nuggets, Minnesota, the Rockets, Dallas. The Spurs are going to be a handful this year. The Spurs are going to be a handful. The Dubs still going to be decent, and the East got weaker, which is crazy to say this every year. But the West got stronger, the East got even weaker, and we're in the ideal conference right now to capitalize. Buzzer says, how do we match up against OKC? I think to take down OKC, I think we match up really well in the front court. Back court, I think that's going to be where it's won or lost, fam. I think Brunson, obviously, they love to attack him with the extra size of Shea, with Caruso, with J-Dub. So I do think we match up really well with the front court. The back court is going to be, okay, how can Mikal step up? You know, does Clarkson help us out a lot with the scoring? You know, could Pacome Dardier win some of those shooting guard minutes? I think that's where it's going to be won or lost, fam. What's up, Susan? Great to see you. I'm feeling better. Appreciate your thoughts. I know I don't sound better, but it's simply just the nasal congestion right now. I'm starting to feel definitely a lot better. Hopefully you and yours are doing well. Hopefully everybody's had a good summer. And we're ready to get down to business, fam. Dirty says there was very little need for practice with Tibbs as well. There were very few wrinkles in the offense and defense, unlike Brown. Great point. 100%. And I think that was a perfect storm for Thibodeau, you know, understandingly that he does play a lot of minutes. I don't think we needed to practice as much. Probably could have done with a few more practices, but I think given the rotation was so small, I think that was the effective way to go about it. Yeah, I know last year was last year, but yeah, my issue was we kind of waited a little long at the trade deadline and bringing in PJ Tucker, and you know the DeLon Wright move was solid, Landry move was solid, but I think the front office could have done a little bit more in Thibodeau's defense to give him that 8th or 9th guy that he could trust. But yeah, it is what it is. You know, the trade deadline, they weren't aggressive. You know, that could have been a missed opportunity. If you think about how close we got, I think if you gave the front office truth serum and said, if you could redo the trade deadline all over again last season, I think they would have tried to get maybe a little bit more aggressive and get another piece. Because, I mean, you talk about Game 7 against Indiana, a series that could have gone either way, and you're in the NBA Finals. You know, so I think Tibbs squeezed as much juice out of whatever there was, fam. But I just don't think there was enough juice, you know, to defeat Indiana. That juice was to come from the front office. You know, if they gave you know, him an extra piece or two. But yeah, you know, Thibodeau's Thibodeau. We don't know if he would have played them a lot more. I think it's clear that he didn't really trust Precious. That was clear, you know. It was clear that he didn't really trust, you know, some of the other guys as well from an early standpoint. Yeah. So yeah, you know, I don't think anybody's blameless. I'm not just saying the front office is the reason. I'm saying they could have helped the situation more. But ultimately, Thibodeau was the issue. You know, he's not here because Thibodeau was an issue, and I fully support that. You know, I fully support the coaching change. Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to get ready to wrap up in a minute, fam. But Susan says, can you just go over the schedule changes? Definitely, 100%. So we'll have preseason 5 games, which is good. That's about the standard. 2 of the first 5 will be in Abu Dhabi. October 2, October 4 against Philadelphia. Back-to-backs against an Eastern Conference team that we will play a lot. So that's good for familiarity. We'll play Minnesota, which is good. That's going to be a tough matchup against Washington as well. And we'll conclude with the Hornets, right? And then the leaks that we have so far of the schedule, these are the only drops that I know of so far. That's the opening game on the second night of the NBA season. It's going to be against Cleveland at home, Wednesday, October 22nd at 7 p.m. And we do know Christmas Day, we also open the slate against Cleveland, noon tip-off. That's also at Madison Square Garden, so that's great. We know those Christmas Day games always deliver, fam. Last year was a classic against Wembanyama and the Spurs, and it was a classic earlier against with Kemba Walker, gave us that 40-piece Christmas Day. We also know of Martin Luther King, January 19 against the Dallas Mavericks. We'll host the Mavericks on NBC. The new coverage, obviously coming from NBC, that's a 5 p.m. tip. Also hosting. So all of these drops, we have the New York Knicks hosting. So the NBA knows that the NBA is, the New York Knicks are box office this season, and we're going to be the hottest ticket in the East, right? The hottest ticket in town. A lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of spotlight. Obviously, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Knicks, it's going to be head-to-head all year. And I'll say this right now. I don't care if we finish second in the standings, right? Finishing with the top seed is not going to be my priority, right? Just finish in the top 2. Doesn't matter where, just finish top 2. Get out unscathed. Get through it healthy. And then you can attack the first round. Fam, so that's key for me. I don't really care about the regular season as much. I care about the playoffs now. And we are built to go all the way. Right now, Knicks Cleveland, that's the box office matchup we know about. And we'll be back, fam, tomorrow or the next day. I think Thursday night, when the schedule drops on Thursday, the full schedule. I think tomorrow we'll hear some more leaks. And then we'll continue to talk about, is Ben Simmons going to be that 14th guy? What's the holdup? Who is it going to be? I do think it's a high possibility it is going to be Ben Simmons, right? There's a reason we are waiting to sign a Shamet. It's because we're holding out for a guy like a Ben Simmons. Fam, I do think Mike Brown is a fan, and we'll see how that plays out in the next one. But smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Great to have you with us, and I will see you on the next one on Thursday night, everybody. Peace.